When we run PowerTracks, typically we run it from the Start menu using the Programs, PowerTracks Pro group, running PowerTracks Pro Audio as the program. Later on we'll show you how to make a shortcut to the PowerTracks directory. Running PowerTracks Pro for the first time, it's going to show us a dialog which is MIDI driver setup. This can be accessed from the Options menu if you need to return to it. There's an input driver section and an output driver section. The output driver is what sound device you want to hear your MIDI sound through. On this particular setup we have a Sound Blaster AW64 installed. On this computer we also have a Roland MPU 401 device sound canvas installed at a different address. We're going to be using this for output due to the high quality of the Roland sound card. The AW64 MIDI synth is a typical setting that somebody with an AW64 would use for their MIDI sounds. The AW64 MIDI out setting would be used if you had a MIDI keyboard that you wanted to attach to your Sound Blaster using the joystick port. Creative Music Synth is a lesser quality FM synthesizer, and the Roland MPU 401 is a device that, because we have this extra sound card, that's one we'll be selecting. For the input driver, we are using the joystick port on our AW64, so we'll select AW64 MIDI in. This tells us that the address is at 330. Timer period in milliseconds is a setting to do with the timing accuracy, and that can be set between anywhere from 1 millisecond to 20 milliseconds, so we'll just leave it at the default setting, which is 10. First time it'll show you tips of the day, which can be disabled if you want using the OK button here. And analyzing sound card is something that it does the very first time, something you can cancel if you want. It's just analyzing your sound card now to determine settings like your DMA buffer size and basically what type of sound card and features you have. Once that's done, PowerTracks is configured, and the next time you run the program you'll just see exactly what you're seeing here. Now, PowerTracks is a fully featured MIDI and audio sequencer. So we'll just give you a quick tour of PowerTracks now. Probably the easiest thing to do is load in a file. File open is the way you load in a file. F3 would be the shortcut key, and you should be aware that these shortcut keys are listed all throughout the menus on the right hand side of the menu. So if we choose File Open, we can see some of these files you will get with PowerTracks, and we can load in a file of different types. MIDI are MIDI files, which you often find on the internet, or you can make yourselves, or you can purchase from third parties. SEQ are MIDI files that are stored in PowerTracks native format. KAR files are files, karaoke files that are similar to MIDI files, and then there's also WAV files, which are audio files that can be opened directly in PowerTracks. So you can see, if you forget, you can see specific descriptions of what these types of files are. So here we have a file called I said, and this is a file that comes with PowerTracks, and it is an example of a sequence in PowerTracks format which is purely a MIDI sequence. So there's no audio data on this, but we'll be using the MIDI features of our sound card. So here we've loaded in a file, and this is called the tracks window that you see here. There are many windows in PowerTracks, and if you press the window button you can see the types of windows there are. Tracks, bars, meter map, tempo map, comments window, sysx window, guitar window, and mixer window. In addition, there are windows that have an event list, notation, big lyrics window, and audio edit window. The reason these windows are on a submenu is because you can have, with these ones you can have a separate window for each track, so you might have 7 or 8 different event windows, whereas you can only have one of these types of windows. So let's hear what this sequence sounds like. The easiest way is just to press play, or most people who use sequencers prefer just to press the space bar on your keyboard. So let's press the space bar and hear what this file sounds like. So you can hear what you're hearing now is MIDI data playing to the Roland sound canvas, and that you can hear at 3 separate tracks, which is bass, drums, and piano. you can see that PowerTracks is displaying something on the MIDI keyboard. It's displaying the bass part. The reason it's displaying the bass part is it displays the current track that's highlighted. If we switch to piano, now you'll see that it's displaying the piano part. Now there's lots of ways we can view this information, but let's take a quick tour of PowerTracks. Here is the position in the song, which is about a quarter of the way through the song. It's also displayed here as bar 26, beat 1, and this is fractions of a beat. This is minutes and seconds. The song is in the key of E flat, a 4/4 time signature. The tempo of the song is 127, and it can be changed by double-clicking on it, typing in a new tempo. If you wanted to slow it down to, say, 110, you would type that. Because it's MIDI information, it can be slowed down. These buttons are very useful. If you tap them at the tempo you want, it'll change it to that tempo if we want 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's sped up to that particular tempo. Now, let's say we wanted to see the piano here. If we wanted to see the notation of the piano, we could say Window New Notation. But if you'll notice, there's a hotkey for that is Alt F2. A key I prefer is to just press this button, which is for a notation window. So now we can look at this file and see that there's a lot of options available for this notation window. For example, we can see the information. Because this music is in a triplet feel, I'd prefer to display it in this particular manner. You'll notice as the song's playing, we see the piano displayed here, we see it displayed in notation, and we also see the notes highlighting on the screen here. So let's press the stop key, or the spacebar would have done the same thing. Now if we use a key to advance, we can advance by chord by chord, and that is using your numeric keypad, pressing the delete key or the key beside it, which is the 0 or insert key. So you can really study a piano piece in great detail. You'll see that there's chord symbols here displayed as well. Now these are things that we would have typed into PowerTracks. To do that, you would press the CH button to type chords, and then you would just type. For example, if I felt that that should be A flat major 7th, I would type A flat major 7th, which is A, B, M, A, J 7, and then type it to enter a chord in, and then that chord would display. So using this track button here, we can change to the different tracks. So it's displaying bass in the concert key here. Typically bass is written up an octave, so we can use PowerTracks to transpose the menu here. Now we see some of it is displayed on the treble clef, so that's to do with the clef split setting, which we could say we should split the clefs at a higher value, and then our bass is displayed properly. So these are some of the things that you can do as the song is playing. There's more ways you can look at your data. The bass track has an event list on it that you can display, and if you go to the top of the song, you'll see every one of these notes. So if we use the transmit button, so you're seeing every note here on your bass track, and this information can be edited if you double click on it. You could type in different, you could produce a wrong bass note if you wanted, and so you can see an event list for any track. Pressing the F2 key is the hotkey for an event list, and it's probably the easiest way to get one up. So you can press F2 and get your event list up. So we can see an event list for any track. Also, if we have one open and press another one, we can have multiple event lists open. So you can see that we have one for track 1 and another one for track 3. So there can be a lot of different event list windows in PowerTracks. But this allows you to both see the data exactly as it is. For example, this tells you that at time bar 3, beat 3, 22 ticks, and there's 480 ticks per beat in most sequences that we use, but you can tell what the resolution is by this setting here, and it is 480 ticks. And so this is at 022, pretty close to the beginning. On MIDI channel 2, there's a note event, which is the note of E flat in the 3rd octave at a velocity of 57, and it lasts for 296. And all this data will be stated up here exactly what these values are for. So you can use this event list as a crude method of inserting notes or editing precisely the data on your tracks.